marriage can actually bring out the worst instead of the best of people. And why do I say that? I believe a dysfunctional marriage, and sometimes people might think they're in a happy marriage also, but regardless, a marriage can bring out the worst of two people together. People go on about officialize it and making their commitment, let's say, concrete. But in a marriage environment, when the ingredients are not balanced within the relationship, it can give people a space to actually live out their worst instincts and patterns all over again. And it can get up into a cycle. The problem here is that people rushed into getting marriage, into getting commitment, without actually thinking if it is in fact the person that they're willing to work with and to hopefully end up forever. There's no such thing as forever anyway. So what happens in a marriage or in a relationship where it's unaware, when people get together, it's like two enemies that are living together, and they are in a way pretending to be in love, because each one of them is actually expecting the other to be giving the love, and the other person is also expecting the same thing. And the problem here is that if these people don't know who they are, and they don't know what life is all about, none of them are ready to actually give. Why? Because they might not even have it within themselves. They don't have the love. So how can a person give love if they do not possess it? So this sounds quite negative, what I'm saying, but it is upsetting because there is some ring of truth to this, if you're hearing it. It even comes to a point where in marriages, it reaches to such a detrimental point where a lot of women, or maybe men, even go out to have sex out of obligation. How many times have we heard that people just stop? Everything just suddenly changes. It's not so beautiful as it was in the honeymoon stages, right? So the question you need to ask yourself is, what kind of neurotic society have you placed on yourself? And what actions can you do to change that and not continue that cycle, right? Because marriage can be the root cause of, I don't know the percentage, but quite a high percentage of psychological issues and social problems, right? And I insist, I'm 42, I am not married, I am not committed. I insist that people should be focusing on what their desires are out of this life. What desires do they truly have, right? And being able to go with the flow, right? And when it's time that you find a person that can meet some of the requirements that you truly, truly want, that's the time that maybe you might even consider a marriage. Families can actually create a lot of problems because what happens is, if they haven't managed to solve their own issues as adults, they then proceed to put all of their sickness, they can put all their superstitions and all their stupid ideas onto their children. So the cycle goes on and on and on, right? So are these people actually equipped to be having children? When it comes to marriage and children, not everyone out there is, but a high percentage is. These people soon come to find out that the reality of a family life actually failed to live up to the ideals that it was presented. So people who have no life, let's say life, who have not been educated on life, will eventually go down the path of a marriage that it's going to turn to something very, very horrific. And instead of it being something very sacred, it actually becomes the opposite. It's very, very devilish in the end. And it ends up in a contract that is much evil than good. Right? Because instead of these two people understanding that they are there to be supporting and helping each other one grow, it ends up becoming dependency on the other person and a lot of constriction, right? So for me, marriage, instead of being something that is meant to be in heaven, it becomes fucking hell, right? It's fallen even below profanity, if you ask my opinion, right? Because for me, marriage can be slavery, right? And a lot of people have sabotaged their chance at actual real love, and they lock themselves into these hollow roles. And I'm sorry that I'm disappointing people, but I this is how I feel about it. A lot of people are getting married based on social and legal customs. Yeah? But there's also very positive things when it comes to marriage, right? I'm not going to disagree with that. But regardless, people need to define what is real living love. And why isn't everybody in a blissful state? In my opinion, love comes and goes. And in reference to marriage, I sometimes find that delusional and false, and also can be extremely harmful for the human, in it. The term monogamy, right, or the thought of a love lasting a whole life is not valid for me, right? Why do I say that? Because there are so many divorces going on right now. So things are changing. Things are changing. A person might sit with you a certain point of your life, but then as you change as a person, another one comes along. And this is what happens. So I don't believe in monogamy, right? I find marriages sometimes quite harmful because people actually get attached. They get attached to a lot of self-limiting duties, and it might even get people to stop experiencing the divinity and to actually get them to see what life is all about, right? For me, one of the worst things that I have trouble dealing with was the parenting style where they pass on to their children like a carbon copy of themselves. So if an adult has experienced negative emotional traumas, right? And a lot of people might think, oh, I don't have anything, I'm perfectly healthy. You're delusional. You're fucking delusional. Anyway, but all of this negative emotional traumas and behaviors that the adult will have, it's going to get passed on and on down to generations, right? So you are the person you are today based on all the people that you have interacted with, whether you like it or not, right? So at each stage in your life, you evolve to different things based on the people that you are around with, right? So what my recommendation is if you find yourself in a cycle like that, where you're not happy with marriage, not married with relationships, not happy with life in general, you really need to sit down, right? Take a deep breath and invest in yourself. Invest in yourself and how to improve the quality of life that you want to live. So you've forgotten about a lot of things. You've neglected a lot of things about yourself. The path you are on is the right path. This was what you have chosen. But you need to hold yourself accountable for all the choices that you've made and bring about solutions on how to be able to improve them. So that can mean working on your relationships from scratch, or your marriages, or whatever you want to say that, or on your children, or admitting the faults you have within yourself, how you are putting them onto other people, and only you need to reach to the point where you need to try until you cannot try anymore to fix things, and then decide how you want to, live your life, whether you're going to make it into a good one or whether you're going to keep going into that path that a high percentage of the population is going through. You need to recognize that you do not understand yourself. That's one way to spot it, that something's not all right. See, all of us are crazy in some way. We can be neurotic and balanced and quite immature, but we don't quite know the details because no one really encouraged us too hard to find them out. We're difficult as people, and if we're not well within us, we cannot be well with the other. We need to recognize our own neurosis, and it's not quite easy. If we have a poor level of understanding of our character, then we can come to realize that we really might have not known what we were looking out for. And the years keep ticking. And in addition to that, we really don't understand other people. We might be well-meaning to the other person, but we don't really understand. We just go on assuming, thinking whatever we're thinking, shutting down, So when you got married, you thought the psyche of that person that you were planning to marry or get involved with or commit to, you didn't know a lot of things when you got into it. You thought you did. Your illusion thought of what it was. It could have not. At those times, people might have not introspected. They could have just gone by the sexual intimacy to that person. But there's a lot of absence of information that one did not see. And as the years go by, or as time goes by, people start noticing that. Because we get to a point of projecting our ranges of imperfections on the person that we love on a daily basis, but nothing seems to be done. Nothing happens. Yeah? the problem with humans is that they're not used to being happy. A person actually looks for familiarity in the other person. Yeah? And a lot of people are living in relationships right now that they are recreating some of the feelings that, as I said before, the familiarity, right? The familiarity that people had in the childhood, they are living it now, right? Love, the way you know it right now, is how you came to know it when you were a child. But the lessons maybe that you have picked up may have not been straightforward, right? Because the love that you might have known as a child may have become entwined with other less pleasant dynamics, right? So a lot of people might have gone through certain things in their life, like being controlled, being, feeling humiliated, feeling abandoned, blah, 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 these, having trouble communicating. In short, anything that has to do with suffering, right? We might have rejected healthy candidates from our past, because we were not at that certain point to allow what might have been good for us, because there might have been people that were too well balanced. So you might have crossed paths with a person who might be too mature, too understanding, too reliable, right? And because that feeling was unfamiliar at the time, it was kind of like alien to you, you were almost oppressed by that, right? Because you were attracted to candidates which unconsciously you would draw in, but not because they were going to please you, right? You thought that they were going to please you, but you were actually attracted to that familiarity, and these are the people that are frustrating you in the familiar ways that you know, right? And people can marry the wrong people because the right ones feel wrong. They feel undeserved. Because people do not really have an experience of health. Because people don't ultimately associate being loved with feeling satisfied. And a lot of people rushed into marriage because they could not bear the thought of being alone. Being fucking single, blah, blah. Sorry about that. But being single was so awful for people, right? And when one was not in a good frame of mind, at the time to choose a partner, and I know at that time they were supposed to be rational and stay single, they just couldn't bear that, right? People have to be in utterly peace with and being solitude for quite a few years in order to be able to understand what it takes to form a good relationship. We are going to come to realize that we might have gotten ourselves into a dangerous, unpleasant situation, and we need help to fix that. Or we get caught up into the routine, right? People start to lose their independence. Everything changes. And sex, that's quite hard also as the years go by. So we got ourselves into this. Based on our choices. Based on our choices of familiarity. So back in the olden days, marriage was kind of like a business, right? It was a business. It all had to do with matching your bit of land with theirs. And those times, it could have been quite cold, ruthless, and disconnected from happiness because of everything that was happening. And a lot of people are still traumatized by this. They ended up being with people because that's the way it was at those times. During the times of the romantic marriage, right, what replaced the marriage of reason was the marriage of instinct. It dictated that how one felt about someone should be the only guide to marriage. If one felt in love, that was enough, and no more questions asked. That feeling was triumphant. Parents were obliging their children to get married, whether they wanted it or not. That's the way it was. Social conditioning, and as the years go by, lack of imagination of people. People did not go to the school of love. They went to school, they went to university, they went to college. They're getting, some courses when it comes to, improving their skills. But a lot of people did not go to the school of love, to this field. What is the psychology of love? And it's not just by marrying or just by feeling. The feelings are not enough. Feelings have shown that they're not enough. People were married without information, without any information. They never really ever read any books specifically on that subject, right? They never really spent more than a short time with children, right? And this is where we go. So a lot of people in the age of marriage that they choose, when they married that certain person, they probably put into account who their parents were, how culturally similar they were to their family, if they thought they were amazing, their partners were amazing at the time, But did one ever sit to think about how were they going to end up in the end? Are they mad? Are they one that could actually raise a child with? Are they one that want to develop together? Are they one who wants to remain and have a real friendship between them? Yeah? Because human beings have a fateful urge to make things permanent. People like to own the stuff that they have. Yeah? People want to marry the person at the time they're having a terrific time with. But that's not enough. Because a marriage cannot guarantee happiness just because we had some fleeting good moments with them. Because that permanent thing that you think will be fleeting. At some point, it's going to bottle your joy, and the honeymoon gets over. People believed that they were special, right? People believed they were special. That they're not, blamed for being in this situation. A lot of people believe it's fate. I disagree with that. It's not fate. It's a choice. It's a choice of our own ignorance of not being educated with things. A lot of people before they got married, they likely went through a lot of turbulence in their lives, in their love lives. They had a lot of turbulence. They've been together with people who might have not liked them, who might have cheated on them, who might have betrayed them, a lot of wrong partners. And in the end, they made the conclusion that they actually found someone that is going to give them all that excitement that they want, and there will be no bitter disappointments. And at a certain point of that we get exhausted, and that thrill did not go anywhere. There's always going to be restlessness and challenges when it comes to partnerships. always, till the day you die. And I don't say that. That's life. Nothing comes for easy. Right? So, your responsibility now is to educate yourself what can be done about it with the situation that you're encountering right now. So, if you're experiencing setbacks in that, you need to find out why you have these setbacks and go on to fix them and bring solutions to them. Right? You need to look at the psychology of a partnership if you want your lives to improve. If not, you can just remain like the rest of the population.